Calls for police reform. Meanwhile, the House Judiciary Committee will hear testimony from George Floyd's brother today as part of a hearing on police reform. 12 witnesses will testify, as well as police and criminal justice experts. It comes after growing calls around the country for police departments to be defunded. Joining me right now to talk more about that is Pennsylvania Congressman, House Judiciary and Armed Services Committee member Guy Reschenthaler. And Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
What can we expect from your hearing this morning?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go in. Republicans are coming in with an open mind, and we'll see what the Democrats have to say on this. You know, there's things that we can all get behind. For example, transparency. We all want more transparency when it comes to the police. We also want to see more training. I think the police should have training on de-escalation, and we should have more resources for police. We should have school resource officers. We should have suicide prevention, PTSD treatment. That should be part of it too. So training and more funding for police. And then, of course, we need a way to terminate bad actors in police departments. So if we can focus on those three elements, we can actually get something done. But Maria, what I expect is going to happen is the Democrats are going to take a hard turn to the left. They're going to try to appease their far radical base, and we're going to hear this mantra about defunding the police, which could possibly be the worst public policy idea I've ever heard.
Do you hear an alternative? Do you hear a backup plan that if your house gets robbed, if you get mugged, whatever, who are you going to call if you defund the police and you're disbanding the police? So what's the Democrats' strategy in that case?
Well, I think they'd want you to call a social worker. Right? Their plan, they are just going with this bumper sticker mentality, this bumper sticker public policy of defund the police with zero plan afterward. I think it's a complete wrong direction we need to go. It sends the wrong message and a bad signal out there. And if you defund the police, we know one thing. Affluent communities are going to hire private police forces or private security firms to police those neighborhoods. And then the most vulnerable communities are going to be left with lawlessness. As policing goes down, crime rates go up. I think that the responsible thing to do is look at real solutions. I think we actually need more funding for police. We certainly need more training. There's a mental health care crisis with these officers, and I think getting more funding for suicide prevention, PTSD treatment is, of course, necessary. And again, we need a way to terminate bad actors in police departments. There's real reform that we can do. Unfortunately, the Democrats are squandering the opportunity, appeasing their far left radical base.
Can somebody explain to me what's going on in Chicago? 18 murders in 24 hours. Inside the most violent day in 60 years in Chicago. What is the issue in Chicago where it is the deadliest city in terms of shootings?
Well, take a look at Chicago. It's been in Democrat control for decades. Some of the strictest gun laws in the United States in Chicago. So you have a movement there to, one, de-arm citizens, take away their right to self-defense. Then you have these liberal policies where you downgrade police activity, and it's exactly what the Democrat plan would do to the rest of the United States. When you take away the ability for citizens to protect themselves, when you try to replace police officers with social workers, you have a recipe for lawlessness and chaos and disorder. That's why we need to fight the Democrats' radical plans to defund the police.
Well, this was just this Sunday. 18 people were killed on Sunday, May 31st. It was the single most violent day in Chicago in 6 decades. Unbelievable. Bob Nardelli wants in. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Congressman Bob Nardelli here. First of all, thanks for your service. And you know, when you were in Baghdad, you processed over 100 terrorists over there. So I was really pleased to hear the specifics of what you're recommending as opposed to just the generic things. And so we know that speed, you know, less talk and more action is going to be critical. And give us a projection. How fast will Congress be able to respond to this situation, the crisis that we're in, so that we do have proof positive evidence that we're listening and we're responding?
Well, Bob, thanks for the question. I think we're going to see quick action here. We already have Tim Scott working on a Republican version of this bill in the Senate, and we have Pete Stauber, a former police officer in the House, that's really leading an alternative to the Democrat proposal. But we're being told that the Judiciary Committee is going to be in next week to do a markup where we actually move legislation out of committee. And then we're being told that we're coming in early, which will be later this month, to actually move whatever product comes out of the judiciary through the House and get it over to the Senate. So I think that Congress is taking these issues very seriously. And again, as long as we can focus on what we have in common, training, transparency, terminating bad actors, we can actually have a product that will help reform the police, but not disband the police.
Matt Schlapp.
Maria, you talk about Chicago, but I want to focus back on Minnesota, Congressman. If these left-wing policies of a Democratic Party that's moving to be a socialist party, you have these left-wing Democrats elected from governor to mayor to the city council to every aspect of government in Minneapolis and Minnesota. And somehow in all of that, they want to insert Donald Trump and Republicans. Shouldn't you also focus on these policies on the ground that are simply not working? I applaud almost everything you've talked about, but it's not working in these communities because of these left-wing politicians who are very racially sensitive.
Well, if you look at what the Democrats are proposing, a lot in talking about defunding the police, the sad thing is that if we remove police or if we limit their ability to actually engage in police work, you're going to have crime rates go up. And it's going to self-perpetuate crime in the areas that are most vulnerable. So that's the sad irony. That's why I keep going back to the fact that we actually need more funding for police. The Democrat way of what they've been doing has not been working, making calls to move resources from police to social workers. That's not going to do anything to fight crime rates. And look, I was a district judge for a period of time. I was a defense attorney and a prosecutor in the United States Navy. I think that what we really need is we really need to take a look at ways that we can have more police in schools with school resource officers. It's really the first way to have community policing. We also need to do something about the fact that police need more training. We know that. And then, of course, they have a mental health crisis. Police are actually more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty.
Congressman, all important points. We so appreciate you joining us. We'll be watching the hearing this morning in your committee, the Judiciary Committee in the House. Thank you, sir. Guy Reschenthaler joining us there this morning.